Hello. Oh boy, we're getting people. This is good. Gonna wait for a second. Can everyone hear me all right? Coolio.
The rest should be able to hear you.
Okay. Ah,
Okay. I think half of us are editing while in call.
that's fine. Such is the life of an editor, right?
I know.
That's fine if people start. Um, hold on. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name's Joey. I run Pretty Miss Studios. I don't know if any of you know that studio. Um, it's
Totally don't know
huh?
it.
Oh lordy. Um, it's a basically like I want to say the longest running lady studio. I believe we're up on our 4th year anniversary soon. So yeah. Um, oh my god. So I had a lot of people ask me to do like this whole thing on leading because I'm known for being the kind of the hardest leader in PMS. That's what everyone else says anyways. Um, but I'm here to like answer any questions. If you have questions about like public MEPs, you should ask Star because I'm really terrible with public MEPs.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna leave that adult in charge of that. Um, but I do have some questions that other people asked me first, and if you do, you guys want me to go ahead and answer those first, and then you can do like follow up questions. Okay, I'm cool with that. All right. So the first question I got asked, when should a studio host an activity check? You should always be hosting an activity check at least once a year. I'm very terrible with activity checks. Like I just started doing them because I'm trash and I didn't give a shit. Um, but you should definitely be doing them at least once a year. If you plan to be a studio that's like really, really active, then maybe consider twice a year. Like probably at the end of summer and then after Christmas is how. No, I we did ours before summer started, which I think is best because you know how many people you need. Um, so yeah, before summer and before the holidays, I would say. Um, should you encourage a strict system with another system to get rid of strikes? I for PMS we do that, and we have a system where if you get a strike, you can get rid of it. It's difficult to get rid of them, but you can. It's not like impossible. You just have to like do backup parts, turn parts in on time, and all. Um, I don't think it's a bad idea, just because it's unfair if someone has like a temporary problem and you don't want that to like accumulate. Uh, is okay. This is a targeted question. Is it okay to threaten murder your members sometimes? Listen,
This is
listen.
funny coming from me.
Okay, okay. Um, it shit. Okay, you guys are saying yes. This is a question that depends on the person. I have plenty of members who can't take a joke, and they will take that seriously, and they're like, "Oh my god, this person's like so terrible." They're like threatening me to get parts done. It's like it's like with people like Logie and Star, they know that I'm just messing around, though I am threatening them, but it depends on the person. Most people don't care. Crying is not a good idea. You should not just cry. That's a bad idea. Um, oh lordy. What studio do you even lead?
Oh my god.
Oh, right. That's a thing. I didn't realize you were one of the leaders for that. Well, now we have a leader teaching other leaders. This is great. I love this. Okay.
Leader conference.
Yeah. We should just have a studio for only people who lead other studios. That sounds like a great idea.
It's like the United Nations, but with studios.
Okay, let's not call it the Wait. Yeah, let's call it the United Studios. I like that.
United
That's
Studios.
that's great. And you have to like show your credential that you like have led a studio and all this stuff, and you've made at least one MEP. Like that's the baseline.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is should you ask other studios to collab when you're starting off when you're just starting off, and like what's the most effective way to go about collabing? Um, yes, Maddie, we will argue. Hint, it's me. Anyways, um, I personally don't think that collabing when you're a new studio is like the best idea. I don't know. I think it's like you really need to develop your style in your studio first. Like you need to develop a system before you start interacting with other people. So just make sure you have your shit together before you have to deal with other people's shit. Because studio collabing can be great, and like the one we did with Speps was awesome. Other collabs, not so much because of reasons that I'm not going to get into because they're not important. But you have to kind of be prepared for all types of leaders because some leaders are shitty and other leaders are great. And I can tell you who's shitty and I can tell you who's great, but I'm not going to do that.
That's not what this conference is for.
Yeah, that's not what this is for. I'm not here to talk shit about other studios. That's not fair to them. Um and then I guess the follow up was like, what's the most effective way to go about making a collab? Really, the most effective way is just if you want to like collab with another studio, it's best if you like know the leader personally. At least for a first collab. If like for your second or third you don't know them but you still want to talk to them, that's fine. But for a first one, it should be someone that you already know, kind of well, and someone who you work well with because doing collabs is fucking hell, because people are insane half the time. Um, we don't take jokes in the studio, never. But I think that like you just hit someone up who you know on Skype, be like, "Hey, I normally like approach someone with an idea. Like people come to me for collabs and I'm like, "That sounds cool, but like what is your idea? Do you already have a song choice? Do you have a theme?" Always approach someone with kind of what they like, something that, you might want to do, and then kind of go from there. It's pretty simple, if anything. And
Just
then
a rough start.
yeah, that works with any kind of studio, whether you know the leader or not. So that's fine. That sounds about right. That's about how everything starts.
That's how
Lordy.
all studios start.
Hello, new person. There's a new person here now.
I think Mommy joined.
It's fine. It's fine. I haven't. I'm just answering some basic questions, and I can. If you have any other questions, I'll answer them again. I don't really care. Um. Anyways, next one I had: is it a good idea to include 3 songs in a poll, or should you stick to 2? This is my biggest pet peeve. All right, listen
my
up.
God, here we go.
Okay, listen up, kids. Listen up. You should never do more than 2 MEPs for poll. There's a reason for this. I'm not saying like I'm not doing this to be mean. There is like a very logistical reason for this, okay? This has to do with statistics and math. So, if you do say, you want to do you pick 3 songs. I don't know. Give me 3 songs. One by Lady Gaga, one by Kesha, one by fucking Panic at the Disco. Why not? Let's just go with those, alright? Because those are great artists. Anyways, spreading my propaganda, I'm sorry. Say that a song by Kesha gets the most votes, and they have 35% of the vote, but they have the most, or they had like a majority. I don't want to see the majority. They had, there's 35, then you have what, 15 for like the next one. I'm very bad at math. Fuck. Hold on. I gotta do some basic algebra here. Um,
You're
okay.
doing math while in this call?
I am doing math. Okay, let's say the next one down gets 31%, and the other gets 30%. I think that's how. We're very roughly here. Um, but you kind of, when you look at it, it seems like, this Kesha song has the most votes, right? But technically the votes are still split because 60% of people didn't want to do a song by Kesha. So do you kind of understand what I'm saying? That, like, while, 35% voted for this, the other 65% didn't.
And that's why when you upload the MEP for it, that's why people don't sign up.
Yeah, that's why people don't sign up. And that's why whenever I do polls, I always also have people, I add two more options, which is I have the two songs, and then I have I like both. So which song gets the most votes, I'll know that people are still into it. And also I'll have I don't like either. So if I have an overwhelming amount of people that don't like both songs, then I might want to change up my song choice. Um, and, like, that's an error on me as a leader, and I should be giving my members things that they want to edit. That's kind of, the basic gist of that. You should always be, like I said, back to the basic question, only 2 songs per poll. Never do more. It just ends up bad.
Three is pushing it.
3 is really pushing it. If you plan to do 3, then that song better have at least a 50%. Like, I don't care. It needs to have an overarching majority, not just the most amount of votes for it. Okay, I have 4 more questions, and I'll take more follow-ups. What's the best way to tell someone they have a strike? Always tell someone that they have a strike, like, right when they get it. Like, don't wait, don't, like, I always say to someone, I'm like, hey, if you don't get this part in, or if you drop out, a day before the deadline, then I'm gonna have to give you a strike. If they drop out, or they don't reply to me a day after the deadline is over, then I just tell them, hey, you have a strike. You don't need to be mean about it. I'm mean about it because I'm just a mean leader, but I'm just like, hey, you have a strike. And then you don't need to do anything else. If they want to remedy that situation,
you get a strike. Everybody gets strikes.
Everyone gets strikes. It's like, if you want to remedy that situation, and because you're someone who has a strike, that's something that you have to deal with and handle yourself. Like, I'm not gonna help you. I'm not gonna be like, here are your options for getting rid of your strike. Like, no. If you want to get rid of one, then, that's up to you coming to me, telling me what you can do. It's just like school, If you're in, like, high school or college, if you're failing a class, that's not the teacher's responsibility to go tell you what you can do to fix that. That's your own problem. If you want to graduate, then it's your fault. um oh wait, no, I just read that.
And then there's also
Go right ahead.
Like, there's conditional, like, reasons when people need to drop out of things.
Oh, yeah. If people are like, hey, I have a family problem or I have a medical emergency, I'm like, oh, you're good. Like, you're totally good. Stuff like that happens, and you really need to have, you just, there's exceptions, and those are snap exceptions. But if people just don't turn it in because they're like, oh, I'm lazy, then I'm like, no, that's not valid.
Your funeral's the next day, then.
Yeah, your funeral's the day after the deadline. The day of the deadline is your life's deadline. So just keep that in mind. Next one. How should you promote activity in your MEPs? I don't know how to answer this. This is a question that certainly varies based on the studio. I feel very lucky to have Pranima Studios at the place where it is now, just because, like, we have 50 members, right? We have around that. I think we have exactly 50. And so I have like an endless, it feels like an endless amount of people who are ready to edit or take backups. So I never feel super pressured. It's difficult when you're starting out, and I understand what it is, what it's like to start out and have like no members. Pretty Miss Studios only had like 7 members when we started. I'm not even kidding. It was like nothing, right? Um, but I think like the best way, at least when you start a studio, then you should be keeping track of activity a little more. Like, hey, since this is a new studio, I'm going to require that you join at least one MEP out of 3. Like that's occurring. Like I think that's fair, and it keeps people at least engaged. Another way to promote activity is that you should never make more parts. Like, you should never make an amount of parts exactly to how many people wanted to sign up for it.
Oh my
Like,
god.
there are people who are like, oh, 25 people wanted to do this MEP, well, then I'll make 25 parts. No, people might want the MEP, but you can't guarantee that they'll sign up for it because they might not. If they can't find a part that they like, they won't sign up. So I always try and like cut it off. So if like 25 people say they want it, I'll make like 20 parts. Kind of give it like a margin of error and that kind of stuff. And then you also have people who are prepared to do backups for you and all that sort of stuff. Um, so you just kind of have to be careful and never, yeah, just never try and have like everyone join something. It's ridiculous. Unless you
And
have,
in terms of that with leading, like you also as a leader have to be aware that you might have to do more than one part
oh
just to
yeah.
get something moving.
Oh yeah.
You can't rely on everyone else to do it for you.
If you're a leader and you're not lazy like me, you have to be prepared to do backups for yourself. No one's going to do it for you when you first start out. Like I did, there was an MEP where I swear to God, I did like 4 parts for it. And Jules,
I
when
do
she
that
was
too.
co-leader, also had like 4 parts. And we took up like almost half the MEP. It was a little ridiculous. But we had just started out, so we were like, we gotta do this shit because no one's gonna do it for us, and it's gonna take too long to find backups. So just be prepared to kind of take charge of your own kind of like doing backups and whatnot, and just be prepared to simply, if people are upset that there's not enough parts, they can be on a waiting list or whatever. That's fine. People will drop out like flies. Like, I swear to God, there's never been a single MEP I've had where someone didn't drop out. It just doesn't happen.
The last time I had something like that, there was no drops, was way back in February.
Oh, God. At least it
That
was
was
of
like
this year.
that was like MEP what? Uh like 53 or something.
Oh, God.
I'm at 70 now.
I can't. There was one MEP that I had where no one dropped out. The only person who didn't do their part was me. I feel so guilty about that. I still haven't done that part. That MEP came out like a year ago, and I'm just like, I can't do this. Sorry, this is never gonna come out. I feel really terrible. Don't be like me. Don't. Okay, that was a public MEP on my own channel, so it's okay for me to do that. Never do that for your studios. Just because you're too lazy to do a part, don't be like me. All right, that was a one-time deal, and I was very not into editing.
Yeah, and then if you delay the MEP, then everyone else is just not gonna be like if the leader's on it for the do, then the members will too.
Yeah, yeah. If I always try and get, unless I'm doing a backup, of course, I'll always try and get
Yeah,
my
Jake's
parts
in bed.
done before the deadline.
Jake's in bed.
Yes, lead
Yeah.
by example, basically. Um, all right, we're almost done. What's the best way to keep communication open with your members? Okay. We're gonna have a little story time with Joey. Everyone
Yay.
gather around. Yeah, everyone good to go? Alright. Um, basically, there was a period of time that we tried to test out something new. We tried to kind of bring another person into the fold for Pretty Miss Studios and all that. and it didn't work out. And I'm not going to get into details because there's no reason to. It just didn't work out for pure professional level reasons. And when that happened, I had to make sure that, like, all the studio, like, I put in the announcement chat, I'm like, hey, studio members, here is what's changing, and here's why, like, this kind of thing isn't gonna work out at all. And so that's just gonna kind of have to be how it is. Like, if it's a personal thing, you don't have to delve into it, but just make sure that they understand that, you have to keep open with them, and that encourages them to be open with you. Just be honest with them. Like, that's really it. Honesty is amazing, and admit to your mistakes. I've seen so many studio leaders who are like, they'll fuck up and they won't, like, apologize for it. Like, members will call them out and they won't apologize for that shit. And, like, no, Star, didn't, oh god, who was it? I don't know, some member called me out yesterday, and I was like, you're right, like, that was an asshole thing of me to do. I owned up to that shit. And, that's me taking responsibility as a leader, and that's something that you have to do. You have to lead by example, and you have to be willing to listen to your members and all that kind of stuff. You have to be willing to be like, hey, if they say, hey, I'm not cool with something, you have to let them know that you're listening to them. And that gives you respect that, as a leader, that they can trust you and they can tell you things. If a leader or if a member ever told me that, or if I ever found out a member didn't feel that they could trust me with something, I would feel like I failed as a leader.
Yeah. And then another important thing between members and leaders is, like, the familiarity, especially with smaller studios. As a leader, it's always good advice to, like, get to know your members before, like, it gets really big.
Oh, definitely. Like, okay, here's the thing. I always ask members what their channel names are. And there's a reason for that. It's because I've never put their channel names in, like, their Skype nickname, because I don't want to know them by their channel name. I want to have their name, I want to have their pronouns, and I want to figure out, like, who they are, what they like to edit, what I can do for them, their editing style. Like, I want to help them, get them to, like, wherever they want to be. If they join PMS, they're like, I want to be a better editor, I'm like, all right, then I'll give you advice. Like, I will ask you to change things about your part. I mean, I won't tell you to be like, that part's terrible, change the whole thing. I'll be like, you can try this next time and that stuff. Like, just be honest and be trustworthy and all that kind of shit. And yeah, it's really not hard.
Be honest, but don't be a dick about it.
Unless you're me, then you can be a little bit of a dick about it. I'm only a dick if someone is okay with me being a dick. Like, they know that I'm joking. I never do it intentionally, and I cross the line sometimes, and I'm willing to admit when I do that. So don't be like me. It's fine. And I think the last question, it's how do you not fail as a leader? And I kind of touched on this in the last one. Like I said, if your members can't trust you, I would feel like I failed. If your members feel like if they feel pressured by you, if they feel like, okay, everyone in PMS feels pressured by me. That's because I'm overbearing. If you feel pressured by someone and it's making you legitimately uncomfortable, then I would feel like I failed. Just completely. I never want to see the day where a member doesn't want to be in my studio because of something I've done, or actions that I have made, or decisions that have been made and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I land, I guess. Like, always just be willing to take, like, a moral high road and that kind of stuff as well. Even if you feel like you might not be in the wrong, it's like, who cares? Someone doesn't trust you, and someone thought that what you did was wrong, and it's your responsibility to own up to that. And I think that's not even just, like, a leader thing. That's legitimately just, like, a human being thing. You should own up to your decisions and shit, So, yeah. those are kind of all the questions I had from Andrea, who's a lovely leader, by the way. If you're interested in lesbian studios, I'm gonna casually promote her. Hold on, hold on. I need to
This
find.
panel, this panel has been sponsored by.
Yeah, this panel has been sponsored by all of Andrea's lovely, lovely questions. Who, I like. Please join her lesbian studio. It's great. Like, it's amazing. And I wish I could join if I had time on my hands, but I'll promote it endlessly. I can't. It's called White Lily MEPs. If it's not White Lily, it's Lily White. It's something like that. Hold on, I'm gonna find it, guys. This is important. Okay, this is the clear most important thing that I'm gonna be doing if my computer ever loads. While I'm finding this, does anyone have like any questions for me or that kind of stuff?
Sarah asked one just now. I'm gonna copy and paste it.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. If you're a co-leader and do all the work instead of the leader who's inactive, what do? You lead a revolt. No, that's not how we're gonna do things.
You're the leader now.
It's basically okay, this might sound super weird, but if I was in that situation, like, I've had times where I've had leaders talk about how they don't want to lead a studio anymore, and I'm like, I'll do it for you. Like, and that sounds weird, but if okay, hold on, I kind of have, like, a follow-up. Is this leader, like, a friend of yours, or is it just, like, I just work here? It's Water Lily Studios. Okay, thank you. Thanks. I was trying to find it. I was worried that I couldn't. It's Waterloo Studios, by the way. But anyways, yeah, that follow-up question. Can someone please?
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does make a difference. Because I want to give proper advice. Okay, you guys are kind of friends. Alright, you're familiar with each other. That's all that really matters. If you're familiar with each other, then I think that you shouldn't be scared about being honest with them. Just seriously be like, hey, if you don't have time to lead this studio anymore and you're not interested in this studio, then I will take over. I mean, that's if you want to take over. That's kind of, advice that I would have if I was in that situation, because I'd want to take over immediately. But if you're in a situation where it's like you think that you should be the new leader, be like, hey, if you want to step down to co-leader or vice leader or whatever it is in your studio, you should let them know. And if
it's not like you're kicking them out of the studio at all. It's just,
you're just giving like
a shift.
Here's the thing. In PMS right now, we're doing this whole thing where we're trying to test out, like, basically we're trying to find people to help us do staff work, because KK, who's my co-leader, he's about to start his next semester of college, and he's not going to have a lot of time to help me out. So, like, he's kind of stepping back a little bit, and I'm bringing someone new into the fold. That's just kind of how it is. You're not replacing them. You're just asking them to kind of take a step back if they don't have the time. And that's, it's not a big deal. And it would still be their studio. If they're the founder, then it's not uncommon for founders not to be leading their studios,
Yeah.
So
a lot of a lot of well-known studios, like, they still have their founders listed, but the founders aren't leaders anymore.
Yeah, that happens if leaders, or I guess founders in this case, just lose inspiration, and it's no one's fault. Yeah, I would say just ask them to just just ask them if they want to step back and kind of have that conversation with them, and don't feel scared to have that conversation. Especially if you know
How do you
them.
balance school and doing parts?
School and being parts. This is a very great question. I know this isn't related to being a leader, but this is fine. I love this question. I'm someone who's in their senior year of high school right now, and I know tons of editors who are in college right now. Star, are you in college, or have you already graduated?
I'm still in college, but I join back next year.
Yeah.
I'm at a work break right now.
KK's going to college, and I know other editors who've been to college. Here's the thing. Whenever you sign up for an MEP, always, always, always ask them when the deadline is going to be. If it's not listed already, you ask them when the deadline is going to be. If that deadline is going to be around a time where it's exams, then you might not want to join that MEP. And let them know, like, if you're, like, on, like, some studios have, like, studio probation, where if you don't join, you get kicked, but PMS isn't like that. But I'm just giving you an example. Just explain to the leader that, like, hey, I don't currently have this level of time. Like, I can't join this because I have school reasons. And if they don't respect that, leave that studio. I have no respect for leaders who can't respect
Honestly.
that.
The same goes for a public host. Like
Oh yeah.
if like their due is like near an exam. Well, I mean, first of all, when I host stuff, like especially when it's around May and such, I try to avoid using like the last few weeks, like the middle week to the last few weeks, because that's when exams usually happen.
Yeah. I tend to always plan MEPs around okay, there's a lot of American editors, but I do have a handful of international ones. But I tend to plan when MEPs are going to end around exams, which, depending on where you live, can be late May, early June. So always make sure that, like, maybe have a deadline after an exam season. Maybe have something kind of around Christmas and after exams for, those people. So that's kind of the basic. Do you have a time schedule for doing MEP parts and doing schoolwork? Uh, just do it in your free time. Like, school should really come first, especially if you plan on doing. Like, for me, I don't really care that much because I'm gonna be a film major,
I
so I don't really have to worry about school that much, or at least like what my grades are, because I'm going to an art school. But definitely, like, just do it in your free time, and just get your work done. Like, if you're like, oh, I have, a reading for this class due on Monday, and it's Friday night and you haven't started, maybe get started on that. Um, you can also do a system of, like, rewarding yourself in a way, but make sure that you're someone who, like, doesn't over reward themselves, because there are people who do that. Like, if you're like, if I read 10 pages of this, then I'll get 3 seconds of this MEP part done. It depends on what kind of editor you are, but that's kind of a basic frame for at least effects editing.
What I sometimes do is I do homework during day and I edit at night.
That's if you're that is good if you're like a late owl like I am.
Yeah.
I think we had another question. Hold on. I'm trying to find it.
How do you react to your members going on hiatus?
Hmm.
Is that the one?
I don't care. If you want to, like, here's the thing. I'm, like, permanently on semi hiatus. I've been on semi hiatus for at least over a year now. And I haven't announced it or anything, but yeah, I don't edit unless, like, I'm doing a backup for PMS. Like, I just don't really do it anymore because I just don't have, like, the inspiration that I used to have or the time. But if someone's going on hiatus, like, ask them, is this a sort of permanent hiatus where you need to leave the studio because you don't feel like you're going to be active for the next several months? Or do you feel like this is a short term hiatus where maybe you'll be gone for 3 or 4 months? Like, that's kind of a difference. But how I personally react, I don't care. If someone needs to go, they need to go. They just don't have the time. And no one should really, talk down on them
Yeah.
about it.
I think the only time it can get concerning is like, let's say you have a smaller studio, and let's
Yeah.
say out of 10 members, maybe like 4 are on hiatus.
Yeah. Then that's a
Like
problem.
then, yeah, then it starts being but by that time, like if it's been a while, you can consider like doing maybe like a sweep audition, which is like when you just like it's a short-term audition in which you can like get in new people to make up for that.
That's a good idea. I've always considered for PMS, like, opening permanent auditions, but I love myself and that would take a lot of time to go through all those. To just regularly check those, it would take a lot of effort. But Like,
True.
I don't make the whole studio new members announcements and stuff. I'm just like, you want to join? Auditions are open. You'll get added right away if I want you. Next question. If you're, this sounds like a very specific question, but I will answer to the best of my ability. If
I'll
you're in a
try.
studio with like 3 or 4 other leaders, but one of them is doing all the work and not communicating with the others or letting them do things in the studio, even though they all want to help out, how do you get that across? Um, I have to bring it up and stuff, but they just don't share the workload.
Let's see.
Hmm.
Well, when you have that many leaders, communication can get difficult. One way that things can work out in some studios is that you divide the work. For example, one person can be in charge of reminders, another one makes the signups, another person gives out the parts, one puts together and renders.
If anything, something that I found really easy is also just trading off who hosts. Like,
Yeah.
I know this isn't something that I do very often because I like to have a hand in all the MVPs because I don't like making. If you're a co-leader, that's literally just a title. I don't make you do very much. You just send out reminders if I ask you,
Yeah.
and you take
That's what
over
I
when
do
I'm
too.
gone. But it's like if you have a studio with 3 or 4 other leaders, just be like, hey, how about you host this MEP in, let's look at a calendar here. Let's say you host this MEP in August. Your deadline is going to be in October, which is 2 months afterwards. And then another person is going to host their MEP in September, and their deadline's going to be in November. So that's also a 2 month deadline. Those two people hold MEPs, and then when they're done with theirs, they'll hand them off to whichever of the leaders isn't currently hosting one. I think that would be a very interesting way to remedy that. I don't know. I can't imagine a studio with 3 or 4 leaders. That sounds pretty crazy, but
Oh man.
yeah, you
I'm
can
so
either,
used to the norm of like 1 to 2.
yeah, never host more than 2 MEPs. I'm just gonna say that now. Never host more than 2 MEPs in one studio.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, you can either divide the workload, have people in charge of certain things in the studio. There is a studio. I know in SMEPs they have this person's like they're all leaders and they can all make MEPs and stuff, but it's like this person's kind of head of moderating the chat. This person's sort of head of keeping stuff up to date on the studio. Just divide up the workflow like that, whichever people are comfortable with, and let them have that responsibility. Like, and if that person who's kind of hogging all the workload be like, hey, you know, let us do stuff. Like, you gotta let us do stuff. Um,
hmm
so it's really just
I
about,
don't know. I know that also, what is it? Like if you have like of those 4 leaders, if 2 of them aren't too active, they can be in charge of the reminding if like
yeah.
they're busy with stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Just divide up the
Let's see.
workflow however you feel comfortable. Um, Next question. I want to
I'm
ask how
logging.
long did it take for PMS to start being noticed? Me and Ria started an SNK studio, and I got inspired by you to start my own studio. What should I do as a person who just started and a person who didn't lead in much things? Um, no, I love this question because, um, hold on. The person who's asking this, Logie, you're like 14, right? This is important. I'm creating an analogy here. This is great.
Analogy.
I'm pretty sure
Here we
Logie's
go.
like 14. Um, when I started PMS, I was 14 and I was dumb and I
Oh.
never hosted a successful MEP before. But I wanted to try and I wanted to take that leap of faith. Here's the thing PMS took off through a lot of hard work and a lot of late nights doing backups and editing the same song over and over and over again because that's what needed to be done. Um, PMS kind of exploded during our Bang Bang MEP, um, which was kind of crazy. I'm still amazed that it has like 1 million views. Like,
The
wow.
statistics on that is just off the
We were
charts.
a very small studio when Bang Bang came out. Like, we had just hosted auditions, and that was our next MEP, and it just blew up. And it's really something that's just gonna have to come down to like you might get lucky. A lot of studios that do blow up, it's because they got lucky, and for smaller studios, they can grow more gradually and that kind of stuff. But I guess just you're gonna be starting out making some small stuff, maybe some stuff, maybe making a public MEP kind of soon after you make your first MEP, so you can get more people involved and interested. That's what we did for PMS. So just kind of be aware of that it's going to take time. It's not like PMS was super big right away. We came out with what, 5 MEPs before we actually got really noticed by the community. It's just gonna take some effort on your part, and it's gonna suck starting out. Like, I haven't started a single studio ever since PMS just because it sucks to start, and that's gonna go for any kind of studio, no matter what. It really doesn't matter. It could be a Bishi studio, it could be Yaoi and Bishi studios always blow up, but they never last. Make sure that your
Yeah,
studio
it's
lasts as well.
like an adrenaline run.
Yeah, definitely make sure you're not making a studio over a fad. There are like 2 studios opened up for Boku no Hero, and yeah, I joined them, but like that's like the big thing right now. So when it dies down after this season's over, like what's gonna happen? It's kind of stuff like that. Like, are people make sure that
I
you're
have
always doing
I know
stuff
an
that,
example of that.
yeah.
It's for example, last year with Undertale Studios, they
Oh
lasted a few
yeah.
months and then they just completely vanished off the earth.
I'm still waiting to see a Dream Daddy studio. I'm still waiting. I'm expecting someone's gonna make it.
Dream
Um,
Studios.
if no one makes a Dream Daddy studio, I'll be impressed. Um, but anyways, yeah, just make sure that you're trying. It's cool to be interested in things that are getting super popular. Make sure that when you're looking at it, always think, is this thing gonna last? Because it may
And
be
if you
super
wanted
popular
to,
now, but it might not be later.
you gotta put the efforts to keep it alive. You can't, like I say, you can't rely on everyone else.
Yeah, you just have to put the effort into it and make sure that people are gonna stay interested. Like, I believe in your Shingeki no Kyojin studio because that came out, what, how many years ago? I don't even remember. It was long enough ago, but at least like the first season. Um, sorry, I'm currently, hold on,
Yeah, I'll
but
get the next one.
okay, one sec. But just make sure you believe in yourself. That's the best one.
Have
Um,
faith in yourself as a leader.
yeah. Let's get to the next question, shall we? How often do you think it's good to hold auditions, and how many members do you think is good to recruit? What do you look for in members when recruiting? Um, okay, I personally, I am not your typical leader, okay? Um, you should hold auditions at the very least once a year. If you are a small studio who's growing maybe very quickly, then hold them twice a year. Like, it doesn't like hold like actual auditions and then just host sweep auditions during the holidays, that kind of stuff. Best time to host auditions is right before summer, because that's when people are most interested in joining, because a lot of people are finishing up their school for the year and they want to get editing. And it's kind of like you don't know if they'll stay for after the summer ends, but it's like you kind of have to give them that whole hook, give them a taste of what they're in for. Um, so PMS always hosts our auditions. I don't know why I said studios right before summer starts, like end of May, or no, we start in March and then recruit and we close them in May, so we keep them open for a while. Um, but so yeah, just host auditions whenever you feel comfortable, at least once a year. Next one, how many members do you think is good to recruit? Recruit as many as you want. Like, I don't understand people
I think the average is like 25, I think.
fucking. I think we took in like 30 people for PMS this year. There was an audition, like, last 2 auditions we probably took in about 10 to 15. every audition, but now it's like, I don't give a shit, you know? I never really gave a shit in the first place, but it's like, if
I
you
like your
like
editing, you're in.
yeah, if you like their editing, this gets into what do you look for members when recruiting. If you like their editing style and you feel like they have kind of, they're leading, how do I say this? Um, they're at your like level of requirement needed, like a skill level, um, then definitely just like, let them in. There shouldn't be any limit. If people want to join and they're really good at it and they seem very dedicated, then just let them in. Now, other things to look for when recruiting. Um, a lot of studios are starting to recruit through Google Forms. I love to recruit through Google Forms because you really understand someone as a person when they try to fill out a form. And
Oh my god.
I
We know plenty of this.
are you really are you ready for this? Because you know about this star. Because I always
Yeah.
share these. I had tons of people who would audition and they maybe wouldn't finish filling in the form. They would answer things incorrectly. I had a lot of people not understand what pronouns were. Now that's a simple thing, and I understand that like not everyone's gonna get it, but like some of the answers for that were pretty creative. Um, had a lot of people like say you can also know what people edit with because there's some people who edit really well and they'll list some sort of editing program you've never heard of before in your life. It's great. Um, you also get people who just. I've had someone who had a lot of people who fill in a form with like a Skype that I can't add them with. And it's like that kind of stuff. You should always skip over people who cannot fill out a form right. Unless it's like just a very simple mistake, like not knowing what pronouns are. Like that's, just a simple thing.
Or
Just skip
or if
over
it's
them.
like or if like English isn't like their main
Yeah, if,
language and
if
stuff like
English
that.
isn't their main language, then that's fine. But if it's like a legit, like they just didn't care to finish filling it out, or they didn't meet all, like, they didn't hit all the points. Here's the thing: I never make the questions required unless it's like their channel or their Discord and their name. Um, like those are the four. I let them figure out the rest on their own. And so if they don't finish filling something in, then I know that they might not be someone who has a level of communication or professionalism. Like you can really tell a lot of someone based off their audition. You know, be sure to give them plenty of questions about like their editing style and all that kind of stuff, and just see what you're about, man. I also always leave anything we should know about you at the bottom. Now, I've gotten some pretty wild answers for that. I'll
Oh
just
my
say
god.
that right up front. Some cringy-worthy ones, some that just didn't make any sense. Um, but it's what happens, and it's all in good fun. I know we had 120. It's because I'm looking right now. We had 127 auditions. Um, our last go around, and I think we took in around 25 to 30 people. I could be wrong on those numbers, but it was a lot. And I went through every single audition single handedly. I skipped the ones where they didn't finish filling stuff out, and yeah, it's pretty simple. Um, Next question. Do you kind of like filter members when new ones join, kick out inactive? I don't understand this question very well. What do you?
It's like activity checks. Like if like let's say you have a form right, and it's like if you're active, fill this out, and by this date, if you don't, you're kicked out.
So you're filtering through them. Okay, I didn't.
You're filtering out the ghost members, basically.
Okay, yeah. Um, I mean, okay, PMS is a very terrible example because we just started doing this. I've always tried to do an activity check and I've always failed. Just every single time because I just could never care enough to keep track. Um, but definitely the best time to. This is how I kind of plan to do it with PMS from now on is that if you're either moving to a new chat, like for PMS, we just moved to a new chat because I didn't have like everyone added in the old one. I didn't want them there anymore and all that kind of stuff. I basically just made it so that, um, how do I say this? Um, it's we basically just added all the new people and I took out the old ones by just making a new chat. That's kind of an inefficient way to do that, thinking back on it. A much more efficient way would have been that you you take out all the inactives before you add the new people. Then you're kind of like, you're bringing new people into the fold and they don't have to be like, you don't just have to sit there and witness a bunch of people getting kicked out. Like, I think that's kind of funny.
They don't need to witness a purge.
Yeah. Um, this also leads into another thing. Always, always, always make sure you have every single member added. If this doesn't matter as much for Discord, but on Skype, always make sure you have every single person added. I have.
Even if you're like,
What was that?
and by that I mean if like let's say like a leader doesn't have someone on Skype, but the co-leader does, that's when it comes convenient.
Yeah. I have every single person in PMS added on Skype. And it's great, especially because I always use it to threaten people about their parts. Sorry, not threaten, remind. Um, but yeah.
Joey knocks on your door with a gun. Where's the part?
I won't hesitate, bitch. Okay, we're gonna take a short 5 minute break. And because I need to go walk my dog, and then I'll be back. So get food, use the bathroom, any kind of stuff. I will be right back. Okay, guys. Feel free to
But you
come.
want to ask me stuff about public projects? I
Yeah,
guess you can go
if you have
about
stuff
that.
for public projects, ask Star. But I will be right back.
Oh man, public maps. Just hit me up on those while Joey walks the dog. How do you threaten people in public? When I first started doing hosting, that used to be like a major problem to me, in which I would have people in my projects who would I'm not saying refuse, but they just would not cooperate in doing the part. So what system I do now is that I send a reminder approximately a week before the due. And then there's another thing called a final reminder. And what the final reminder is this can also be set up the last week before the due or a few days before. And in this, which is the person either has to turn in their part by the said due, ask their extension, or respond to it to know that they'll finish it on time. If they don't do either of which about like 1 or 2 days after the deadline, I'll just drop them and then get a replacement for it. How do people edit fast? I guess it depends on how you tackle your editing program. A lot of people can tend to know shortcuts, and that's what kind of shortens the time. How do you ask people who want to use first? Oh, are you talking about this like when you have a studio with a public map? I guess you can just like give them a general ask. Like it's not like you need to be afraid to ask because I mean most public maps with studios like they say in the description that if they like your editing you can get invited in. So it's like something the participant has in mind while doing it. But I mean you can always ask, of course. I still don't know how people edit so fast. Like I had this one MEP where I had like one person do 3 parts and they did them in like 3 days. And I was like, how? Also, interesting thing that happens in public MEPs is that like you'll have like people that usually join them, and then you'll have your miracle working like backups in those MEPs. So cool to see. How do you motivate and inspire yourself to edit something? Well, the biggest thing to help with that is if you have as well the choice of song and the way to do it. Like for example, for me, I can't edit anything like I can't edit romance well, so I don't usually sign up for stuff like that. But if it's like something darker, then I have a better chance of finishing that part. And it also the same goes for like when you apply for public maps. Like if you yourself know that you probably won't have the ideas for it, then it's probably not too advised to do, unless you want to challenge yourself, of course. But you gotta keep all those stuff in mind. Yeah, no worries. I used to be a horrendous host years back. Like one of my maps took like half a year to finish. Like they used to take like the average map of mine used to take like 4 to 8 months to finish. It was awful. It's a good time for backups to edit. Do you mean like when the backup takes the part? If it's that, then
I'm
the
back.
usual average for that is you ask a backup. You give them usually a week, but you have to, okay, first of all, when you get a backup, and Joey knows this too, is that when you get a backup, you tell them right away the deadline. Do not have them, yeah, sure,
Oh
backup,
my
and then never
god.
say anything.
If there's people who don't do that, they should not be doing leading or studio hosting or I mean MEP hosting, none of that.
And then you wonder after 2 months why they haven't done it yet. It's because you didn't give them a deadline.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was such a nightmare for me in the past. I used to do that. And I was like, where's your part? And I'm like, I didn't give them a due. So they think it's like whenever you feel like it.
If someone drops out day of the deadline and I get a backup, I give them at least a week. If you can't do it in a
Yeah.
week, you shouldn't be a backup.
Because what the backup implies that you're failing in a short time span. It's like you're
Yeah.
doing an IC for the map.
Yeah. Okay. Um. Oh lordy. I accidentally answered a question without even realizing it. Okay, I just want, before I answer any other questions, I realized while I was gone, there was something that I want to add. If you are collaborating with another studio, please, please, for the love of God, know that if the other studio is hosting the MEP, you are still responsible for your members. I've had
Oh, are we
such
talking
a
about that one collab?
this doesn't have to do with it. It just came to me. It's like you're responsible for your own members and all this. Yes. Why would? Of course you're responsible for your own members.
Of
You're
course
their
you are.
leader.
You
Like I don't mean
don't
to
just
sound
like,
mean.
yeah,
I'm sorry
dear
this
God,
sounds mean.
listen that.
I'm sorry this sounds like, oh, of course, like this isn't meant to be like that. It's like, yeah, even if the other studio is hosting the MEP, the other leader, like, they don't have all the Skype contacts. You do. It's your responsibility to, if they're kind of cutting it close to the deadline, it's your responsibility to approach your own members and be like, hey, you know, please get that part to me so I can send it to the other leader when you're done with it. Like, that's still your responsibility to sort of police them. Because it's a collab. You're not supposed to give one leader all of the control. Personally, if I'm hosting the MEP over PMS, I don't care because I know, tons of people. And I know people who know people because I've been in this community for a long time. Not as long as others, but long enough to have my connections and all that stuff. Um, but it's like, even if you, oh lord, there was a time that I'm not gonna get into too much. Just know that you should also not be you try and be the studio that's on time. If you feel like
You
one of
don't want
your
to be the embarrassing one.
if you feel like your members are gonna if your members drop out, you're responsible for getting the extensions for your if it's your members, that's your responsibility. If it's the other studio, then that's not yours. But if members drop out, you get the deadlines for that collab. You're in charge of your kind of, side of this collaboration. This is your part that you are contributing. Um, so try, and if one of your members drops out, you let the person who's hosting it, if you're not hosting it, that, hey, you know, this person's taking over for this person, and I gave them a week, or no, like, if I'm doing a collab, I give someone 4 days at the most. 3 days if I need it out, if I need it done. If they're doing like, a backup for me, I'm like, I gave this person 3 or 4 days to do this part, and I will get it to you as soon as it's done. Just remember, please communicate with the other person, because when studios don't communicate, it leads people to being upset because things aren't getting done on time and they don't know what's going on. Um, especially
It's
when
kind
you're
of like
especially when you're not the one hosting it and the other studio is not communicating. It bothers me a lot.
a good analogy of this is like, for example, let's say that these two that one group that two groups want one thing. Let's do like a really basic one. Let's say like you want a video game system and you split it between two people. You have to pay your half as they have to do their half.
Yeah, it's a two-player game, guys. Two-player game.
Yeah,
Remember the
two
song
players.
"Be More Chill" musical. It's a great musical. Um,
Anyone
but
else have anything?
I think there was another question.
There was another one.
The biggest editing mystery to me is how people edit fast and still turn out good. Okay, I don't think that was the one. Honestly, I can't answer that question. I don't know how some people do that.
I just say it's just like it's not the editing is the fast. It's just the pace in which the editor does the work.
Yeah. Some people just edit really fast and do it all in one go. I know that I tend to do that.
I can do that, but sometimes I'll like take a break mid and then finish it the next day.
Um, how do you ask people if they want to use their parts to audition without sounding desperate? I don't entirely understand that question. This might be like a difference between
I
studios.
what I it's because what that one was is like it's say it's a public it's studio hosting a public MEP and they like someone's part and they ask if they want to join the
Oh,
studio.
oh, yeah. I mean, okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying now. For Pretty Miss Studios, if we host a public MEP or ISC, I'm like, hey, if you join this and I like your part, I'll ask if you want to be a member. I always put that in the description, like, so people aren't confused when I approach them, being like, hey, do you still want to join? So that's a thing. Um, that's kind of a simple answer. I'm gonna answer this question even though the person's gone because I'm recording this so I can just send it to them later. Um, how do you motivate or inspire yourself to edit something? If you don't have the inspiration already, you shouldn't be editing it. Like,
Yeah.
that's
I
as someone who has very low inspiration these days, I might not be the best person to answer this. If you have to motivate yourself, I say just watch editors for a little while that you really enjoy. Try out some new stuff, keep it fresh. My problem is that I tend to always stick to the same shit, so it's not as fun for me anymore.
Hmm. I usually say like if well also if you're signing up for this, the first course of thought that needs to go through your head is if you like the song or not.
Yeah, that is important too. Like,
And then
even before you sign up, you should be like, do you like this song?
and another thing you have to go through your head is, do I really want to take this instrumental?
Oh my god. There's some people. Okay, I don't mind taking instrumentals, but only if I'm allowed to edit raw. If I'm not allowed to edit raw, I don't know how people pull it off.
Oh man. My last time I had to do raw, it took me like 3 days. And I had to be in like art and effects. Like,
Just
oh my God.
raw is easy. You just gotta follow the beat. You know,
Yeah.
I can't do fan art because there's no real following the beat half the time. I mean, there is, but it's less known, I
What
think.
what helps is if you think in shapes. That's about it.
I can't think in shapes. That's my problem.
Let's throw this rectangle here
I
in
think
three
in
lines.
I think in moving just stuff around. So, hold
Oh
on.
yeah. Another thing is, if you feel like you're gonna get stuck, like if you're consistently getting stuck with a part, if it's still like weeks before the deadline, you could ask to drop out, then wait till the last second.
Don't wait till the last
Unless
second. Please
do
don't.
not wait for the last second.
If you're going back and looking at something, like you get the reminder that hey, this is due in 2 weeks, and you go back and look at it, you're like, I don't really have the inspiration for this anymore. Just tell me, like, just tell your
We're not
leader,
we're not
someone.
gonna like we're not gonna like kill you because you dropped 2 weeks early.
I know some people think that I will kill them, but surprise, I won't. You know, I won't.
No.
Oh, we're
Either.
kind of nearing an hour here. Are there any other questions? There's only like three of you now, but I feel like if there's any other questions that should be answered, I'm ready, more than willing to answer them. I'm willing to go as long as this
We're
takes.
entering the speed round.
Yeah.
Like, what is it, Final Jeopardy?
Oh god. There was another thing that I was thinking of when I was stepped away for a second, but I can't remember what it was now. Because it didn't have to do
Um,
with collabs. Didn't have to do with public MEPs. It might have had
anything
something to
else?
do with deadlines. I don't know. I can't remember.
What
It was like I
about
thought of the thing about collabs, and then I thought about the other thing, and I was like,
you
okay,
keep
now
the
I forget
studio
the other
active?
thing, and then I remember the collab thing, and I forgot about the other thing again. But how do you keep a studio active? Do activity checks. Um, okay,
Make
there
sure
are
that you let in people that like are active.
yeah. Make sure whenever PMS hosts auditions, if someone doesn't have an audition that was made in the last month, then I don't want them. Like, even if, like, fucking make, just a part collection. Like, that's simple and upload it. As long
In an
as.
hour, and Joey finally curses.
I haven't cursed this entire time. No, I feel like I've at least cursed
Yeah.
once already. I feel like I said
No,
shit
you didn't.
earlier. Um,
Okay, that, but
we'll go back. I'm not gonna go and listen to all this, but I'm sure someone will. Um, but basically, make sure that you're. I've joined studios where they just stop hosting MEPs. And that's the real killer when they try to make like a big comeback because no one wants to be in it anymore because you weren't active and they don't really care about that thing anymore. So like I joined this one studio about this like for like this game and I was like, yeah, I like this game. And then we didn't edit for like a year, and I was they tried to make a comeback, I was like, I don't really care about this anymore. Um,
another thing to help keep your studio active is you have to understand the roles of, well, it's pretty easy, the good cop and the bad cop. If you try to be a really really nice leader at first, and then you try to like step it up, your members, like there's times where they will not like take you seriously. Like they'll still keep their old habits, but if you like keep up like a strict attitude from like a sort of early get-go, well they become more intent with their like deadline meetings. Of course, there's different things that come in hand with that, but it's just something there.
mhm. Um, hold on, I'm reading something.
Ooh, let's see.
Uh,
Let's see. What else for the studio thing?
okay. I'm trying. Sorry, I was thinking something, and then I started reading what one of the members was saying in a studio. Keeping a studio active. I had to do something with that. Make sure you're active. I think that's also important. If
Oh
you're not
yeah.
active, then why should your members be? You gotta lead by example a little bit. Um,
Don't be a hypocrite.
yeah, definitely not. Unless you have enough members to be a hypocrite. Like, sure, whatever. Oh, I remember now. Okay, this is a little bit more complaining and not actual genuine advice. Make sure when you make a studio that you're not trying to be all unique and that kind of stuff and actually have like make sure that you can choose your studio either communicates on Discord or Skype or both if that's up to you and some members prefer Discord over Skype or Skype over Discord. Choose one of those because I joined a studio that I don't participate in at all, and that's because they choose a medium that was not Discord or Skype, and I have no obligation to regularly check that. You know, like I'm not already on it.
I used to be in a studio. It was a game studio in which they use a forum to keep track.
That's the studio it's not the same studio, but I'm in a studio where they're using a forum, and I have no obligation to check that forum at all.
It's kind of confusing, but I mean, you could get the hang of it, but it's just hard at
It's
first.
just that, you know,
To,
I always
Skype,
have,
Discord.
it's just like I always had Discord open. I always have Skype open. I don't want to go check a forum every day. Like I just want to know when there's updates. I can't set updates to a forum. You know,
Yeah.
that was kind of.
And then there's some people, like for me, for example, I prefer Skype over Discord, and there's some people that prefer Discord over Skype. So as a leader, you have to find a way to manage that.
Yeah.
Like if you have two leaders, one interesting system, I've never seen it happen, but maybe there is that you have one leader manages the Skype one and another leader manages the Discord.
Hold on.
I don't know how that would work out. It's an interesting way. It's another thing in terms of studios.
Hold on. Any other questions from the last two people here? Because a lot of people have been leaving while we were doing this. Oh, still full of questions. I'm glad. I'm glad there's still people interested.
Okay. Good. No worries.
You sound really salty.
All our years of experience, you could just tell.
Someone sent me 16 Snapchats. What the fuck?
No, it's okay. I mean, like, I think one of the biggest factors of becoming a good leader, or just like a good leader or a host, is just in terms of just, as they say, experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
Like I was never taught how to host. I had to learn from all my mistakes, no matter how stupid they were.
Yeah, for example, I definitely learned by example.
I got a good one, Joy. How about this? Let's say you have a studio in which you have people that owe you parts, but the people that owe you parts are friends.
Fuck them. Honestly, KK always waits till the last minute. Legit, I'll be like, hey KK, I need your part. And he'll be like, it'll be done. It'll be done tomorrow. And I'm like, you sure about that? And he's like, yes.
Tomorrow.
It's like, no, it's like, I'm like, send me a picture of your work. Like, if I can genuinely, like, you should be able to trust your friends. If you can't trust your friends to make MEP parts for you, then why are you even trying? You know? If it's an MEP, then you gotta do what you gotta do. Like, here's the dealio. My coworkers, when I first started working, they thought I was a bitch. Because I would tell them, be like, hey, could you go do this? Because I want to go do this, and this just gets stuff done faster. Like, they would genuinely think that was, like, me just being bossy and whatnot, but that was just me like, no, let's just get this done way faster so we have more time to stand around and do nothing. So it's genuinely...
That's actually a tricky question right there. How do you reject a friend from a studio without hurting their feelings?
This is a hard question. Okay, here's the thing. You're asking someone who I've kicked someone out before for their editing. And that's a hard thing to do. Because it's like, you know, you don't want to... And I've had people join PMS because they were, like, on my line, and all their friends got in, but they didn't get in. And I'm like, I'll let you in, but you have to you have to be willing to take advice and criticism for me, and you have to be willing to, like, kind of let me show you kind of the level of quality that we're looking for.
I have a good follow-up to that, too.
Okay.
The circumstances of a leader's stances when it comes to test members.
Ooh, yeah. We'll get into that in a second, because I think that's an interesting topic. But how do you reject a friend without hurting their feelings? Say that it's not a decision that's being made from, like, just tell them that, be like, hey, this isn't a decision that I'm making because I don't like you or I have any sort of vendetta against you, but I can't let you in, or like don't even say that I can't let you in, say that like we, because normally that's a decision made with other leaders, like as a whole, say like we agreed, or maybe like I was
We the
overruled.
people
Yeah,
state that.
like say that like the leaders as a whole, don't be like say this is just your decision alone. Be like I think your editing isn't quality enough. Be like
Because
we think
when you
that
say I, it makes it more on the like a one-on-one thing when
yeah.
it's not.
When it's really, it oftentimes really isn't. Like you just get overruled sometimes. But anyways, it's
Mm.
kind of just be like you're good, but you're not at the level that we need you to be. Always, whenever you're like trying to kind of break it easy for someone, make sure you start off on a high note. Be like, you're good. I like this about your editing, and I think you have a lot of potential, but we can't let you in until that potential is realized. Um, so like I said, I've had people join where I'm like, you know, if their editing standards were high enough, I kind of put them on a little bit, not really a probation. I don't, that sounds really strict. More like I need you to kind of be willing to take advice from me and be willing to learn. You know, always be like, you know, please learn and not
And when it
you're
comes to
bad
that,
and you need to get better.
and when it comes to that, also be aware that you have to be able to take that criticism.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If, we're all editors and we're all in this together. There's some great, like the greats are out there. Mad Desire Studios is probably going to be remembered as one of the greats, just because they only, you only get in through a competition. Randomly Simple, E Star Struck, those people are, they're high up there. And when you're just starting out, you're gonna want to be like that, and you're gonna want, and you should feel proud with every step that you take. I kind of got off topic a little bit, but I thought that's just something I would give to new kind of editors because people feel discouraged and never
It's
feel.
not bad when you start out. It's hard sometimes.
Yeah, it's
Like I
hard.
know, I get it's hard. Like I used to be rejected for everything,
Oh
but like
yeah.
yeah, but the main aspect when it comes to editing and anything in general is just to not just give up, because if you do, then there's no progression to what you want to be.
Yeah, you have to self improve. It's just like, doing an art. It's like drawing or fucking dancing. You're gonna start at the bottom, and some people might get better faster than others, but you should learn at your own pace. Um, I hope that answered your question, though, Charlie. I know we got a little bit off, but test members. Let's get into that, shall we? Test members are something that um, I have not done personally. I can understand where the appeal might be, being like, if you see someone who's kind of on the line, like I've had someone give me the advice. I'm like, hey, if I see someone who's pretty good, but they're not, I don't know. They gave me the advice of don't accept them because you might just get a roll of the dice with whatever they get. They could edit something really good on one day, edit something that's not so good on another day. It's something that like I can see the appeal in it, but you also have to, I guess, be ready to manage it and be ready to break it to people if they don't kind of get through a certain period. Um, Certainly don't make your testing period like too long. I say like let them test out for one or two MEPs, and then after that decide. Um, just because you don't want them to get too comfortable. Because if someone's like a test member in your studio for like a year, and then you're like, I don't want you in the studio anymore because you're not really living up to the kind of standards that we need, like they've been there a while. You can't just kick them out anymore.
No, they're too adjusted. It's not a bad thing. Like I don't know, like the concept of test members, like I always found kind of strange, because it's also like because there's also some studios where they run the whole like, well, main members sign up first and then like
Oh
test members
yeah,
last. Like
I've
they're just the backups, and it feels kind of unfair too.
that does seem kind of dumb. If they're, yeah, I don't know if there seems to be like a hierarchy sometimes. There's been times where it's like I joined a studio and it's like main members first, guest members second, and I was like, I understand, but it's like, I don't know. In PMS, a member is a member, and
Yeah.
that's how I prefer to run my studio. You're a full member, and if I gotta kick you out, I gotta kick you out. If I,
That's another thing.
if you were maybe a friend of mine who did a backup, you're not in the studio already, and I liked your part, I'll let you in. But it's just kind of that. Just, be careful with how you treat people on stuff that's being, like, that's when you're critiquing and being sort of, I don't want to say judgmental because that sounds very harsh, but when you're evaluating someone based on their editing style for your studio, just make sure that you handle that easily. Like, don't treat it like a joke and don't be too mean about it. Just be like, hey, this is a hard decision to make, but this is a decision that has to be made on a professional level. By the way, I don't know. I could talk about professionalism in studios all day, but that's only if people are interested.
Oh no, this would be on for like 5 hours if we
Yeah,
did that,
if I
Joey.
got into professionalism, we should just turn this into a podcast. I just spent like an
I
hour.
know.
I think that would actually be cool, but that's only if people give a shit. Do you
We're
have
just
are there
branching into
any
this.
other
What?
questions? I would love to turn this into a recurring podcast if people are actually
I know,
interested.
right?
Fucking bitter tips, but in podcast form. How would that even
Where
work?
are they now?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're still doing stuff. They're just not posting as often. I know they always answer when like someone is like, "Where do I get this extension?" But I rarely see them these days. I hope they're okay. I always
Me
wanted
too.
to be a part of Bitter Tips when it first started, but now I'm like, it's probably for the best that I'm not.
I know. Because when they go into the technical stuff, I'm like, whoa, that's
Yeah,
also.
it's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah.
Their last post was 2 days ago, so they're still active. They're just
Okay.
not.
If you don't know what Bitter Tips is it's a blog on Tumblr for editors by editors, and it provides a bunch of resources and tips and tutorials on stuff.
They also have several mods for all sorts of editing programs. So they have Sony Vegas, After Effects, Final Cut Pro, uh, Final Cut Pro X, Motion 5, and I think that's
I've never
it.
heard of Motion 5.
I haven't either, but apparently I know Millie edits with that, and Millie's one of the
Oh, I
mods.
have one, Joey. So I've noticed that in this year that there's a lot of new editors coming in, but they use they use a different programming outside of Vegas, Final Cut,
Oh,
After Effects.
yeah. I've seen
So
that. Like, a lot of people auditioned for PMS with editing programs I'd never heard of before. And I was like, what's that? And I saw their editing, it looked dope as shit. And then I found out it's like some mobile app. And I'm like, what the hell?
I know, right? It's so cool.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. If people are looking for new ways to expand on their editing, feel free to do it. If it looks good and you have the resources to make it amazing, then go for it, I don't think like Sony Vegas and After Effects are probably going to always be like the big ones, but, if you're broke and don't know how to torrent or download shit
Or you
illegally,
or
then
you don't want to break the law.
yeah, or you don't want to break the law because you're a good little noodle, which we have. Which if you don't want to break the law, you shouldn't be editing. But anyways, um,
Wow, Joey.
well, I mean songs and all that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
how do you accidentally torn a program, Charlie? I'm not even gonna ask. Never mind. But I would okay, Star. We're turning this into a podcast.
Oh God.
We need to stop before this gets too long, and then we'll reconvene at a later date. I feel if we turn this into a thing, but
Plan.
um, before we stop, any other questions? Because this is
Any
just pure
final
questions. Yeah, final questions here. Make it count. If you don't say anything in 30 seconds, 15 seconds, I'm gonna say no. Pineapple on
questions?
pizza or no? No. Okay, we're ending this.
Wait. Someone does.
uh, 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 uh.
Feels like we're in an auction right now. Who has a question?
Who has a question? Anyone? I'm here to answer them, so
Yeah.
if people still have them, I want to. Don't think too hard, fellow human being. Don't hurt yourself. If you have a question later, feel free to PM me. I mean, people have my Skype. Just hit me up. I'll be free to answer it in my free time. Okay.
How about? I'm trying to think of stuff too.
How many hours is too many hours designing a studio MEP? If you spend more than an hour, you're spending too much time. Here's the thing. It's okay. You really shouldn't give a shit if it's a studio sign up. If it's a public sign up, then sure, you can give a shit. If it's a studio one, you shouldn't give a shit because the only people who are gonna see it are your members. Like,
It's like you can make it a black screen with track 1 in Comic Sans,
yeah,
and it still counts.
you can literally do that, and the only people who are ever gonna see it are members. So don't get too hung up on it.
Yeah. I
Unless
mean,
you
it's
want to
fun.
practice. Yeah, it's fun if you want to practice that shit, but if you just don't have the time, like me, then slap some shit together. If it looks mildly decent, you're good to go. Like, all my
And
signups
then
look
there's
trash because I don't care.
yeah, because I mean the sign up is only going to be there for like a few months and then it's gone.
And no one will ever look at it again.
I know. That's the
So,
sad part.
whatevs. But I think we're gonna wrap this up here. If you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up, as the cool kids say these days. I'm just kidding.
If you need anything in terms of public maps, you can just ask me.
Yes, Star is very good at that. I'm very terrible at that.
We
Studios are
balance each we balance each other.
we balance each other. Yeah, this is exactly how that's gonna go. All right, bye everyone.
Bye bye.